So this is mainly the standard form of the quadratic equation. That's why it's one of the most important forms. And what they're asking you here to find is which of those is not true, which of those is incorrect. So all of them are correct except for one. And the question seems to be A is bigger than 0, B bigger than 0, C bigger than 0, and so on. And one of the most important things before we proceed is in all standardized tests, whenever I say that something is bigger than 0 or something is less than 0, all what we're trying to tell you is either that it's positive or that it's negative. So when they say that A is bigger than 0, it's another way of telling you that A is positive, because it's bigger than 0. So what they're trying to say here is it not true that A is positive, and so on. So that's why we need to understand what does every coefficient of those represent, and what does those coefficients say about the graph. We started with the A. The A is the one responsible for the orientation of the parabola, whether the parabola looks upwards or looks downwards. If A is bigger than 0, this means that the parabola is looking up. If A is less than 0, this means that the parabola is looking down. So if A is positive, parabola looks up. A is negative, parabola looks down. That's for the A. Then what about the B? Leave the B for now. We'll discuss the C first. So what does the C represent? The C represents still the y-intercept. It is the place where the graph intersects the y-axis. So for example, once you look at this graph, it intersects the y-axis here. So this is supposed to be C. It's a positive number, apparently. It's on the y in the positive part. So definitely C must be positive, according to this graph. Then what does the B represent? Now, the B is, if you remember, is the opposite sign of the sum of the x-intercepts. And that is something we've said earlier. That is something we've discussed earlier. Why? Because we've discussed this before. If you remember, we said that the number of the coefficient multiplied by the x, this is considered the sum of the solutions, or the sum of the x-intercepts, or the sum of the zeros, but with the opposite sign. While this number there is the product of the solutions with the same sign. So first of all, let's look at the graph. Apparently the graph is looking upward, therefore it is a positive graph. Therefore A must be bigger than 0, so A is positive. So choice A cannot be the correct choice, because I'm looking for the answer that says it's a mistake. Second thing is the C. We know that the C is the y-intercept, which is mainly a positive number here. So C must be positive. So C cannot be the correct choice. Now let's check the B. Where are the x-intercepts? These are the x-intercepts. They're both positive, which means when I add them, the sum of them should be positive. Now when it's put into the equation, it should go with the opposite sign. So it should actually be negative number. So this means that B must be negative. B cannot be positive. B should be negative. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Awesome. Now, regarding the last choice though, D, that 3A plus B is equals to 0, we're not sure about that. We don't know anything about that. We don't know the values of A or B, and we can't tell whether they'll be equal to 0 or not. So just disregard entirely this one. We don't know. But what we're 100% sure it can't be true is choice B. Okay. Moving on to number 12. What is the absolute value of the difference between the two roots of the above equation? First of all, we need to remember what are the roots? The roots, x-intercepts, zeros, x-solutions, they're all the same thing. So when they ask me for the roots, this means they're asking for the x values, or they're asking for the solutions of this equation right there. So what does the word difference mean in math? Difference means minus. We're subtracting. So we need the two roots and we need to subtract them from each other. That's what we're mainly looking for. But then we need the absolute value of this answer. So we don't care whether it's positive or negative, we just want to subtract them and that's all. What do we do here? We need to first of all expand this bracket. Now remember that whenever we have two things inside of a bracket all to the power of 2, in order to expand it, we put the first one to the power of 2, we leave some space, we then put the second one to the power of 2, in between, in the middle, we multiply the 3, يعني a times b times 2, يعني تطلع 2ab. نفس الكلام ده بالظبط هعمله هنا. So هعمل 4x to the power of 2 تبقى 16x power 2. Then هعمل 1 to the power of 2, so I'll leave some space and then هعمل 1 to the power of 2, which is 1. In the middle هعمل 4x times 1 times 2, which is mainly 8x. All of this then is minus 9x to the power of 2, all equal to 0. Good. Then what happens next? There are like terms. There's this 16x to the power of 2 along with the negative 9x to the power of 2. So 16 minus 9, that would get me to 7x to the power of 2 plus 8x plus 1 all equals to 0. Any questions until this point? Everyone? Okay, so far clear, yes, thank you. Okay. So squaring, adding like terms, I'm supposed to be left with 7x to the power of 2. This is a quadratic equation. Now what I'm trying to find is the solutions, the roots, the answers. So how do I do so? I would strongly recommend to refer to the calculator at this stage. Mode 5 and 3. That should get me two x values, x1 and x2. Let's do that, please. One of them is negative 1. The other one is negative 1 over 7. So what is the difference between the two roots? That's what we're trying to find out. So we're going to do negative 1 minus negative 1 over 7, and we check it and put it in an absolute form. Or we're going to do the opposite as well, negative 1 over 7, and then minus the negative 1 still in an absolute. We have to do both and check which of those is available in the answers. So negative 1 plus 1 over 7 mainly. This will result to positive 6 over 7, and this is one of the choices, so that's it. And if you do the other one, positive right away 6 over 7. Since they're in an absolute, it doesn't matter which you're going to subtract, and that's why the answer in this case is 6 over 7. Does that make sense? Awesome. But can you use the quadratic formula, you mean? You're asking, can you use the quadratic equation? Can you use the quadratic formula, you mean? Which is the one that, yes. Yes, of course you can. It will just be much, much longer and harder. So the quadratic formula is mainly, let me write it over here for you. It's negative b plus or minus square root b power 2 minus 4ac and all over 2a. So if you started to apply this, you'll get negative 8 plus or minus square root negative 8 to the power, sorry, positive. So it's 8 to the power of 2 minus 4a, which is the 7, and the c, which is 1. And all of this is then divided by 2 times the 7. Simplify this as much as possible. You'll get negative 8 plus or minus square root. 8 power 2 is 64. 4 times 7 is 48. 64 minus 48 is 2, 4, 36. All of this is over 14. Then you'll have negative 8 plus 6 over 14, or negative 8 minus 6 over 14. This one will get you to negative 2 over 14, or this one will become negative 14 over 14. This will result into x1 equals negative 1 over 7, and this will result into x2 equals to negative 1. So the same two zeros that we got, of course, out of the calculator. You can then move from this step and do this one, just subtract them from each other in an absolute, and that's it. Does that make sense? All good? Or did I go too fast? Awesome. Right. These are the important ones now, because these again are repeated a lot. It says here questions 25 and 26 refer to the same information. You are apparently given a quadratic formula right there, quadratic function, sorry, right there, and you're told that this quadratic function is used to find the height of a launched cannonball. He's asking what is the maximum height. So what do we know about the word maximum? We know that the maximum and minimum in the quadratic equations represents the y coordinate of the vertex. So this means we need to find the vertex and actually get the y coordinate of that vertex. This is the maximum. How do we find the vertex given that this is in the standard form? We do the negative b over 2a, which is mainly negative 14 over 2 times negative 2. And that would result into negative 14 divided negative 4, which is mainly 3.5. Take this 3.5 and substitute it again into the equation to get the y coordinate. So I now got the x coordinate, I just need to get the y by finding f of negative b over 2a, which is mainly negative 2, open up a bracket, substitute the 3.5 to the power of 2 plus 14 multiplied by the 3.5 plus 36. Put this on a calculator and it should give you 60.5. And apparently this is the maximum height this cannonball could reach. I will reach, actually. Makes sense? Any questions in this one? Okay. 26. You're asked how many seconds, after how many seconds will the cannonball hit the ground? This is an important idea to understand. Is whenever you throw something, no? Ahmed, you're good, no? Or no was you don't understand? What is it? Should I repeat? I mean, okay, no, awesome. Right. So I'm saying here you need to understand the concept that whenever we throw something from the ground launched into the air, it goes up to the air and then goes back down. Now, the time it takes until it goes up and then goes back down, this means we need to calculate the t, which is the seconds, the time it took this cannonball to hit the ground. Now, when it hits back the ground, what does that say about its height? When something hits the ground, this means that its height is mainly equal to 0. And what does what part in this function represents the height? It's this part. So in other words, they're asking you as if you're taking this function and you're making it equal to 0. when the height was equal to 0. And you just need to find out now what should be the value of t.
مستر
Yes.
أنا في تي كان طلع لي نيجاتيف 2 و9 فأنا
Good.
حسبت الديفرنس وحطيتها 11 بس.
No, because you'll take best the other one. A negative one doesn't make sense. How can I start with negative seconds? But what's the value that gave you this entire equation equal to 0? 9. So this means it took 9 seconds for the height to be equal to 0. Does this make sense?
أيوه.
So all what you need to do now is to solve this thing. So there are two ways to do this. We can do this using a calculator for sure. Mod 5.3 right away. And just find the t values. Or if you want to do this mentally, you can just divide the whole thing by -2, and that should get you 2t squared, minus 7t plus 18. So you look for two numbers multiplied by each other that would get you 18, which are 9 and 2, because they're subtracted would give you 7. Put the two letters. Since this is positive, then, this should be actually negative. So since this is negative, both should have different signs, and the bigger number always takes the middle sign. So this one will be negative and this one will be positive, which means that t is either equals to 9 or t is equals to -2. Now I cannot take this one because we can't have time in negative. So we will take this one as the correct one for sure. So after 9 seconds, this ball will hit the ground. Are we clear on this one? Awesome. But clear, but yes. But what ba? Can't we just substitute the choices for t? We can, to check which of the following would get you 0. You can. Definitely you can. And I'm worried, but that's if you can tell, I solved this question in both ways, whether we do have a calculator or we don't. Sometimes substituting without a calculator would make things even harder than this one, maybe. So we're looking at too many different ideas and too many different ways to solve the same question. So we open up our minds and perspectives on different ways to solve it. That's all. Yalla bina. Next one. Mister, can you explain how to factor using completing the square? Yes, I will explain for you specifically completing the square. Now, actually. So, actually, no. Wait for completing the square one until we work on the circles specifically, because it's a huge part in the circle's functions. In order to get the function of a circle, you need to do the completing the square. So wait for the completing the square part. I'll do it unless it comes through a question here. Yes, Yajad, this question could be there without the calculator. Finally, moving to number 13. So number 13, you're told in the xy plane, the parabola with the equation, this is the equation, it intersects the line with the equation y equals 4 at 2 points, which are A and B, is asking what's the midpoint of AB. This is some sort of, it's a kind of a tricky question, but once you get it, the idea is there always. So think about it this way. In an xy plane, like this one, it says there's a specific parabola, and because this parabola has a positive A, I can tell that it's looking upwards. So I'll just graph it as if it's looking upwards this way. It intersects the line y equals 4. Where does the line y equals 4? Where should it be graphed? You should go at the y equals 4, and you should graph a horizontal line. So they're saying mainly that this parabola with this equation, it intersects the line y equals 4 twice at 2 different points, which are points A, let's say this point, and point B, this one. What they're trying to figure out is the midpoint of AB, which is the point exactly in the middle between AB. They're trying to find the X and Y coordinates of it. They need to know the coordinates of it. Type. Regarding the Y coordinate, we know for a fact that the Y coordinate must be equals to 4, just like the A and the B, because they're all on the same line, which is a horizontal line of Y equals to 4. So we know for a fact that the Y must be 4. So we know for a fact that A is not true. It's either B, C, or D. Now, how do we find the X coordinate? If you remember something, the X coordinate of the vertex. What does the X coordinate of the vertex represent? It represents something called the axis of symmetry. And what is the axis of symmetry? The axis of symmetry is mainly a line that splits the parabola into two equal parts. So if I wanted, I could split this parabola into two equal parts because I need the midpoint, which means I need the X coordinate of the vertex. Let me repeat that. So if I got the X coordinate of the vertex, this would be a point exactly in the middle between any two points on the parabola that are on the same line. So for example, if I selected this point and that one, the point in the middle بالظبط will be the X coordinate of the vertex as well. So what we need to find is the X coordinate of the vertex. So you're given the equation, you can easily use this equation to find the X coordinate of the vertex. So you ask yourself, which form is this? This is the form that says A bracket x minus h all to the power of 2 plus k. This is actually what we call the vertex form. So we know that the x coordinate of the vertex is this number, but with the opposite sign. So it should be 6 on the x. Now what should be the y coordinate? It should be this 4 over here. So the point in this case is D. Please ask as many questions as you want about this one. This is an important one, okay? If you understand not just how it's solved and the concept of it, this means you understood everything. It's actually extremely fast, ya Jed. It took me time just to explain the whole theory for it. But when you look at it, you understand right away when I tell you that this equation intersected this line, you know for a fact that the y must be equals to 4, and you know that the x coordinate is this x coordinate right there. That's all. With the opposite sign. So it's actually extremely simple. Yani without looking at any of this, it required no steps at all. Just this number with the opposite sign and this number with the same sign. And that's it. Does that make sense, شوية Jay? نور ولجين ومحمد ومحمد وعمر, everyone. Are you sure you understand this one? This is important قوي بالنسبة لي. Great, awesome. Now part 3. I'm interested in this part because this is the part where the application of the discriminant starts to appear. So when do we use the discriminant? We use the discriminant whenever, as a solution to the first equation, found the roots, then calculated the midpoint. What you did, Yajed, is 100% correct, but then it came out as 6, which was evident into the equation itself. So that's why we're looking for the faster way to do it. If you remember that this is the vertex form, you know right away that the x, or the number inside the bracket, is the x coordinate of the vertex. Anyway, so again, what do we use the discriminant for? Please remember this. Whenever you hear anything about the number of roots or zeros, you think of the discriminant right away. So because here they say this is a single real solution, number of solutions is just 1. So I think of the discriminant right away. What do I know about the equations that has a single solution? What does that say about the discriminant? So we said three things about the discriminant. The discriminant should come out as, or could come out as, one of two or three choices. It's either a positive number or zero or negative. And when it's positive, this means there are two roots. When it's zero, this means there is only one root, a single root. When it's negative, this means there are no roots. Since they say this has a single root, this means that the discriminant must be equals to zero. So all what I'll do is calculate the discriminant. Understand that this is A, and this is B, and this is C. So then B squared minus 4AC, which is the discriminant, should be 2 power 2 minus 4. The A here is equals to B, and the C here is equals to negative 3. Please remember the signs. This will result into 4 plus 12B. Good. So they're asking, for what value of B does the equation B have a single, that this one has a single real solution? So this means that this must be equals to 0. And I'll start solving this equation. Move 4 to the other side, so I'll have 12B equals to negative 4, which means that B is equals to negative 4 over 12, which means then that B would be equals to negative 1 over 3 as the simplest form. Does that make sense? Are we all good? Perfect. Right. Check out this one. This one is also extremely important. The idea of it, of two sides of the equal the two sides of the equal sign is equal to each other. This idea is extremely important. They've been focusing on it a lot for the previous few tests. We need to always understand that the right side and the left side of any equal sign is equal to each other, and that we can use any other givens as long as it's in the same question and substitute it anywhere we like. Let me explain what do I mean by that. So they told you here that a squared plus b squared is equals to 20. And they also told you that a times b is equals to 8. They're asking for what is b minus a all to the power of 2. Most people would think of finding the value of a became, and then the b, and then calculating b minus a, and then putting it in a bracket to the power of 2. That would be extremely hard. But the easier way to do this is to try to expand this. Because as we just explained earlier, we know that whenever we have two terms inside of a bracket to the power of 2, we square the first one, we leave some space, we square the second one, and in the middle, we multiply these 3. So that's what we know. We base our solution on what we are sure of, and we're sure that this is the case. So let's expand this bracket there. I'll put the first one to the power of 2, and then I'll leave some space, and then I'll put the second one to the power of 2. And anything to the power of 2 is positive. So these 2 must be positive. Now in the middle, I'll multiply b times negative a times 2, and that should get me 2ab. I'll stop here and I'll think. I already know that a squared plus b squared is equals to 20. And this is b squared plus a squared. I also know that a times b only is equals to 8. So this part is equals to 8. And that's what I'm going to substitute things with. Instead of b squared and a squared, I'll put the 20. And then I'll put the minus 2 as it is. And instead of the ab, I'll just put the 8. Calculate this. You'll have 20 minus 16, which means the answer is 4. Does this make sense? Yeah, that's the thing. It is doable. It's much easier. Yeah, Hisham, sorry?
مستر هي وقفت أول ما أنت قلت إن إحنا هنسبستيوت AB ب8 بعدين إيه عملنا إيه بالإكسبريشن؟
شلت مكان you look at the yellow parts. So I removed the b squared plus a squared. Together, they're supposed to be equals to 20. So I removed them together and I substituted the 20. You see?
اه
And then minus 2 multiplied by the AB alone is equals to 8. So I substituted the 8.
ماشي.
Jed, what do you mean by I just found you found the A and B directly, and then what do you mean find them directly? You thought of two numbers that should be squared and added up to give you 20, and then two numbers. So that's 100. I'm okay with that 100%. As long as the numbers are easy to do, it's okay. Perfect. MashaAllah. دي حاجة حلوة قوي. Lulu, you did the same. That's really good because the numbers are easy because they're 20. But if this, instead of 20, I just put 276, and instead of the AB, I decided to put 1602, it wouldn't work. You wouldn't be able to guess those numbers, yet this exact solution would work. Exactly the same. So if instead of this question right there, I do have the A squared plus B squared now equals to 604, and then I'm told that AB is equals to 1067, let's say. And you're still asked to find B minus A all to the power of 2. So in this case, it would be just 604 minus 2 multiplied by 1067. That would be the answer. But it would be extremely hard for you to guess what's the value of A and B individually. Does that make sense? And one more thing. I want this idea of linking everything we know together and linking all the different ways to solve a question together in our minds as a hobby. This is something we should always do, no matter what. So if we are able to link, for example, linear equations to a question that is regarding exponential, that's an amazing thing, and we should try and seek to do such things. This increases your own perspective. It helps you understand and use more the language of the math itself. It helps you understand what to compare between two different ideas, or to compare between two different topics and link them together at the same time. You've reached a problem solver level that's extremely high. Anyway, is this okay? Should I move to the next one? Yalla, let's try the next one. In this one, it's actually similar to a question we've solved earlier. You're given the graph, and you're asked a few questions about the terms of the coefficients of the terms, which are the A and the B and so on. So here's the parabola, the graph of it. You're told that the parabola has this equation right here, or this is the function, negative x squared plus ax plus b. What are the values of A and B? So we just need to find the A and B. We know out of what according to what we explained earlier, this B is what represents the y-intercept. So this is the easiest thing I can get. When I just look at the graph, I can tell right away it intersects the y at -1. So then the B is equals to -1. That's for sure. This would right away exclude choice A and exclude choice B for me. For me. I only have now B or C. Now let's think of A, choice A. Now, sorry, not choice A, this coefficient here. This coefficient, if you remember, this should represent the sum of the x-intercepts, but with the opposite sign. This is when we have x squared minus sum x plus product. This sum should be with the opposite sign. But what if we decided to add a negative here? Then this will become positive and this will become negative. What do I mean by that? But that because this coefficient of the x squared is negative, the sum of the x-intercepts will no longer change its sign. It will remain with the same sign. Which means because these two are negative numbers, when you add them, they'll remain a negative number, which means that B must be a negative number as well. So I know for a fact it's B that it's negative. Yani I know that B and C both are still correct. But what's the actual value? Is it 3 or is it 1.5? How do I calculate that? Assume What is the value of this one? Assume, get the closest you can get. It's not yet negative 0.5, so let's say it's negative 0.25, for example, and this one is not negative 2.5, let's say it's negative 2.75, for example. When you add these two, they'll get you to negative 3 right away. It doesn't seem close to negative 1.5, it seems bigger than that. So then B must be the correct answer, but not C. Does that make sense? جماعة برضو I want to show you أو I want you to understand إن أنا باخد وقت to explain the question, but that doesn't say in this time is required to solve the question. يعني to solve the actual steps of it are just 1, 2. So when I'm explaining it to you, I'm trying to give you ideas. I'm trying to remind you of previous knowledge. I'm trying to link to other things and so on. So if you got confused when I'm explaining the whole idea and you still want a quick summary of how we solve it, just let me know. I'll quickly show you right away how it's done. (27) Consider the function this one, and you're asked what is the ordinate of the vertex f. So these terms we've already discussed if you remember earlier. There's this word, and the other one is the ordinate one. Abscissa and ordinate. I'm not sure about the spelling of this one though. It's one of them is abscissa. We discussed it last class. Let me quickly find it here. Yep, it's with a double S, and I completely ruined the whole word. So this is the correct one. There's the abscissa and there's the ordinate. What's the abscissa and what's the ordinate? The ordinate is mainly the y coordinate of the vertex, and the abscissa is the x coordinate of the vertex. So if you're looking at the vertex of any parabola whatsoever, x is the abscissa and y is the ordinate. That's what we discussed yesterday. So not yesterday, last class I mean, sorry. So when we refer back to this one, we know that we need the ordinate, which is the y coordinate of the vertex. How do I find the vertex out of this one? Now, there are two ways to do this. This is what we call, if you remember, the factor form. This is one way. Another thing, or another way we can do this, instead of using the factor form, we can multiply them and get the standard form, okay? So I'll quickly show you this and I'll quickly show you that. Let's start with the factor form. According to the factor form, these two numbers are what represents the x-intercepts. So if I'd like to find the x coordinate of the vertex, if you do remember, I said that we just take these two numbers and we, with the opposite signs, and we add them and we divide them by 2. And if we then need to find the y, just put f of h plus k over 2. What does that mean? It means we're getting the midpoint between the two x-intercepts. So take these two numbers with the opposite sign, positive 3 and negative 2, add them together and then divide them by 2. That would get you negative half. This is the x coordinate of the vertex. We just need to substitute this into the equation itself, which means I'll just put the 2, open up a bracket, negative half, minus 3, close the bracket, negative half, plus 2. Calculate this. This would get you to 2 minus 3.5, and then this one is positive 1.5. 2 times 1.5 is mainly 3. 3 times negative 3.5 is negative 9. actually is negative 10.5. I think. Did I calculate? No, I did not calculate it right. MashaAllah alayk. Can someone please do that? Can someone calculate this? معلش on a calculator at least. Yeah, negative 12.5. So I probably miscalculated something else. It's positive 3 and negative 2. Oh, I'm sorry, يا جماعة. I'm sorry. It's positive 1 over 2. I'm sorry. This is bad. I'm sorry. So this is actually negative 2.5, and this one is 2.5. So it's 5 times negative 2.5, which is mainly negative 12.5. So then the answer here is D. Yeah. Makes sense? Are we all good? Type. I told you this could be solved using the other way, which is mainly by getting the standard form. So you just need to, in this case, multiply those brackets with each other, then get the negative b over 2a. And that, of course, is the much longer way to do it. So once you multiply these two, you should get this. Then add the like terms. Then distribute the two. Then get the negative b over 2a. Take this half and substitute it again into the equation itself. And that would get you to actually 0.5 minus 1 minus 12, which is mainly negative 12.5. So this one is definitely much longer. This one without the calculator sometimes may cause lots of different mistakes because of either the signs, the powers, or whatsoever. So that's why I think I prefer this one a bit more. Okay. Yes, we can do both. Again, they both work. We prefer the one that's shorter. If we somehow forget how to do the shorter one, then just solve it anyway. It's a good thing that you solve it anyway. It's a point. 9. This is just an equation. It comes out as a quadratic equation, of course, once we multiply them, because we'll have x squared. And I want you to remember always that whenever we have two fractions equal to each other, we must cross multiply. So it comes out as negative 4 multiplied by, equals to 2x multiplied by x minus 3. Distribute this and you'll get negative 4 equals to 2x squared minus 6x. Move everything to one side and make it equal to 0. Divide the whole thing by 2. This will get you to 2 brackets, 2 and 1. This one is negative and this one is negative as well. So that would get you x equals 2 and x equals 1. The greatest value of x is just 2. This is an easy one, I believe so. No tricks here, nothing like that. Range. Now the range is something so far it's been part of the previous 5 or 6 tests, I think. So it's definitely part that's always there. whenever we're talking about the range of quadratic equations, I want you to remember a few things, okay? Yes, I gave you the same exact example, yes. I just want you to remember that the range of the quadratic function is built or is based according to these things. The range, you'll say that it's equal to y either bigger than or smaller than or equal to f of negative b over 2a. What is that? This is the y of the vertex. So whenever you need to find the range of a quadratic equation, you get the y of the vertex, you substitute, or you get the negative b over 2a, and then you substitute it again into the equation to get the y of the vertex. Once you have the y of the vertex, you just say that y is either bigger than or equal or smaller than or equal. How do I decide whether it's bigger than or smaller than? Entirely depending on the a. If the a is positive, this means that the y must be bigger than or equal to f of negative b over 2a. If the a, on the other hand, is negative, less than 0, then y will be less than or equal to f of negative b over 2a. So this is mainly it. We solved this one last time, and I think the answer came out as D. Once you do the negative b over 2a and then you substitute, you'll get the y coordinate and you'll say that y must be bigger than or equal to negative 7. Good. So I'll wait for part 4 for now, because the important of the ideas, even in part 4, along with the others, have been solved before. The question, no, except for one question I'll solve with you. But it's important for me now today to solve or to practice this one, the quadratic functions test. This one has a total of 9 questions. The 9 questions are based on very similar ideas and a bit more complicated ones. So you'll find questions in the middle about things like the maximum and the minimum heights, like the ones we just explained. And you'll find others that are talking about the equivalence of the two sides of the equal sign, and the left side must be equal to the right side. And you'll find parts that includes the vertex form with a bit of a trick. This is the most complicated one, because it involves the idea of a parameter of a shape. The others are mainly easy, very similar to the questions earlier. So please, please, please try your very best in these questions. I gave an option in these where it says I don't know. If you're confused at all, if you seriously خلاص, you can't even guess one that's close, choose the option that says I don't know. But if you think you're very close to an answer you're not 100% sure of, I would strongly recommend that you select a choice that you would do into the test, okay? So for the 9 questions, I'll give you a total time of 12, actually, 14 minutes exactly, okay? 14 minutes for the whole 9 questions. I don't like this timer. Let me check this one. Yeah. "14 minutes. If you're ready, let's start now." So here's the first question. You're given a parabola in a graph. You're given specific points on that parabola, not all the points. You're told that this has 2 x-intercepts shown right there, and you're given also the y-intercept. Which of the following quadratic functions represent this? And once you look at all the choices, you'll find that they're all written in the quadratic form, which is a and then bracket x minus h all to the power of 2 plus k. And we said in this case that the vertex of the parabola should be represented by this number with the opposite sign and this number with the same sign. Good. So in other words, we are trying to figure out which of those applies to this function. If we do know the vertex, it would have been extremely easy to figure it out, but we don't know the vertex yet. We may be able to get the x coordinate of the vertex. Now, how do we get the x coordinate of the vertex? We do have the x intercepts. And we remember, if you remember, we just kept saying that the x coordinate of the vertex is the midpoint between them. So we just need to add these two numbers and then divide them by 2. That would get me 4/2, which means 2 must be the midpoint. So here, this has to be at 2. When I put this inside the equation, it should be there with the opposite sign. So that excludes choice A and choice D for me. It's now either B or C. How do I find the next one? Actually, by using these. How? Just using these two, getting what we call the x-intercepts, اللي هم x form, sorry, factor form, I mean, which is x plus 2 and x minus 6. And since this parabola is entirely looking downwards, then this means there should be a minus somehow outside here, since the parabola is looking down. Once you multiply these, you should be able to figure out the equation. One more thing and final thing is, because the y-intercept is equal to 6, this means when I substitute the x with 0, the y must be equals to 6. So if I'm wondering which of those is the correct one, the easiest thing to do is to substitute x with 0 here and here, and check which of those would get me the value of 6. If you substituted here 0, negative half times 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 8 would get me 6. But this one, negative 2 plus 9, would get me 7. So B must be the correct one. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Everyone?
Yes.
So the majority got C, B, which is good, mashallah, alhamdulillah. Type checking this one now. You do have two brackets, and both brackets are to the power of 2, and we know how to expand those, so I will expand them. All what we will do is just putting the first one to the power of 2 and then multiplying both of them by 2, and then the last one to the power of 2, all equals to 324. As for the other one, same thing will apply. This will get me x squared minus 2xy plus y squared, all equals to 16. Now, if you wanted to remove, if you noticed, you can tell that there is an x squared here and x squared here. There is a y squared here and y squared here. So in order to remove them entirely, I just need to subtract everything up with everything down. X squared minus x squared will remove each other. 2 minus negative 2 will become 4xy. Y squared minus y squared will remove each other, and that would get me to 324 minus 16, which is 308. So next, xy will be equals to 308 divided by 4. Xy will be equals to 300 divided by 4 is 75, and 8 divided by 4 is 2, so 75 and 2, it's 77. C is the correct choice. Does that make sense?
مستر هو أنا وديت السكوير روت الناحية التانية، قصدي وديت السكوير الناحية التانية بالروت الاثنين.
عملت سكوير روت لل 324 وسكوير روت لل 16 وجبت x بلس y واx ماينس y.
أيوه. وبعدين
سيستم اوف ايكويشنز بقى.
أيوه. بس أنا مش عارف دي كانت أسرع ولا الطريقة
اللي احنا عملناها هنا اي ثينك اسرع شويه، بس لو عملت الثانيه اللي انت بتقول عليها المفروض يبقى عندي x بلس y equals سكوير روت 324 يطلع بكام؟ هي دي بقى الرخامة، إن برضه أنا مثلا أنا شخصيا I can't recall إيه square root of 300 كام؟ 18. طيب بعدين تحط هنا x بقى minus y equals to 4 and then you add them, which will get you 2x equals to 22. Then this will get you x equals 11. Substitute 11 minus y equals 4. So أو الثانية حتى. So y must be equals to 7. Once you have this and that, xy will be 7 times 11, which is 77. Huh? Almost the same number of steps. يا جماعة yes يا جاد طبعا it's true وعمر برضو طبعا it's true, but أنا if you can tell I showed you النهاردة بالذات more than one question that works by finding each term or each part of the question separately and then getting the overall answer, أو to work on the whole thing right away. Can't we substitute مكان them in the question? Yes. So we can do x squared plus y squared فعلا. We can do 7. لا بس how برضه the sum of x squared and y squared. ما you don't know what are the sum of x squared and y squared. You'll figure them out يعني ممكن ماشي لوجين برضه it works, بس it will be برضه longer. I think this is the shorter. I think I'm not sure يعني لأنه كده you'll subtract them, the x's and the y, the x squared and the y squared will get removed فخلاص. I think they're all very close كمان to each other في الايديا, وحاجه يعني واحده منهم ممكن تكون اطول حاجه بسيطه من الباقيين, but they're all very close برضه anyway. So whatever you do understand منهم works. I would tell you برضه to be honest why I thought of this. The reason why I did this is because my mind right away connects. بالظبط, that's why algebra is beautiful. My mind right away connects this view of x times y with this view of two things in a bracket to the power of 2. يعني because I kept explaining to you this shape of a plus b all to the power of 2 will get me a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, I connect right away this part with this part. Whenever I see this, I know that this is related to this. So Anna, once I saw that they're looking for xy, غصب عني subconsciously I thought I needed to expand this. That's what happens to me because I link things together that way. Someone else may be able to link this to something else and yet would get to the same answer. وفعلا that's the reason why algebra is beautiful. طيب. I think you're all good so far, I think. And if there's something, you'll of course let me know. Okay. So here's one. You're given here, this is the hardest one. This is the one that most of you actually that you guys actually got very different answer in. Not most of you left it ولا حاجة, but you got very different answers. Because this one links. I get it, Hijad, it's fine, no worries. And that's why it's good, because you have a better, maybe you have a better view in other questions than mine even, and faster one. And that's why I like you guys to tell me what you thought of, because sometimes yours is much faster than mine, and the other way around. Yeah. Anyway. So I was saying about this question, it's a quadratic function because it has a parabola, but it relates the idea of parameter. So what do we know about a parameter of anything? Okay. So the parameter of any shape whatsoever is the sum of the outer sides. So if I have a shape like that looks like this, for example, the parameter is just the outer parts. This part, this part, this part, this part, this part. But I don't need the ones in the middle. It's just the outer region of the whole shape. Now, he says that this quadratic function has a vertex of 3 and 0, and that these 2 points A and D are given this way, that the rectangle ABCD has a parameter of 38. Now, by looking at this, first of all, I can easily, using this point and this point, know that this distance here, this side كده كله على بعضه, is equivalent to 9. Length بتاعه is 9. How is that I used some substitution here and it didn't work? What do you mean you used substitution? You used which point and didn't work, MJ? Which point you substituted with into the equation? The 3 and 0 or negative 1 and 0 or 8 and 0? Which one? Okay, so 3 and 0 should be yes on the equation. That's true, and it should work no matter what. And when you actually look at all the equations, they all have the vertex 3 and 0. Because if you substitute x with 3, 3 minus 3 will become 0. صح؟ فاهم يا رجعين؟ يعني أنا لو substituted x ب 3 في أي واحدة من الchoices, then this will be 0. 0 times anything will give me 0. Because it's the quadratic vertex form as well, which is this one, then we know that if the vertex is 3 and 0, this means that this number should be minus 3, and this number out here should be 0, which means there will be no number out here. Now, regarding the a, we don't know the value of a yet. Well, this is the difference between all the 4 choices, is the value of a. So how do we get it? We need to use the idea of the parameter thing. He didn't just throw this information at me for no reason. So I thought, since I do have these points, I can tell that this part is 1 and this entire part is 8. So therefore, the entire side is 9. So this is 9 and this is 9 as well, which is 18. So if I did 38 minus 18, that would get me 20. 20 is the lengths of the two other sides, which means that this side here is 20. Sorry, this side here is 10. And this one here is 10. So that the parameter of the whole shape would come out as 38. Does that make sense until this point? Yes or no? Awesome. Type. So I do know that point B, for example, point B, the coordinates of it, which is a point on the parabola, the coordinates of it is -1 on the x and 10 on the y. And this point, point C, has the coordinates of 8 on the x and 10 on the y. These are the points that I should substitute with. These are the points that would show me which of the following is the correct one. So if you, for example, we just said that the point is 8 and 10 or -1 and 10. So substitute with these here. Check which of those would get me a result equals to 10. So if I put, let's say, I'll try it here, 5 over 8 multiply by 8 minus 3 and all to the power of 2. That would get me 5 over 8 multiplied by 5 to the power of 2. 25 times يعني 125 divided by 8, that would not be equals to 10. So this one does not work. And so on. So we just keep trying until we find the one that would be equals to 10. Now if you tried on a calculator, which is easier, it would get you let's say we'll try 8 minus 3 all to the power of 2. Actually, no, we can do this easier. لا ماشي. We can do this easier. We can say that instead of the x, I'll put the 8 minus 3 all to the power of 2. And I leave this part, the a, as the unknown, and I'll make this equals to 10. And I'll solve the equation. That should get me 25a equals to 10, which means that a is equals to 10 over 25, which means that a is equals to 2 over 5. So then choice A is the correct choice. Should I repeat this quick part that I said at the end? Should I repeat the whole question?
مستر هو انا حطيت نيجاتيف 1
مم.
في كل الاوبشنز
اوكي
كان طلعت تاني
ايوه
بس
من
طبعا انت بتاخد دي اسهل.
ما انت لا ماشي برضه ممكن تعمل يعني انك تسبستيوت. ما انا كنت بعمل الاول كده، انا كنت بعمل زيك دلوقتي حالا، كنت بفكر اسبستيوت الاكس ب 8 فيهم كلهم واشوف مين فيهم اللي هيديني 10. بعد كده I thought لا، طب ما هو the only difference between them كلهم هي دي بس ال A بس. so I left ال A unknown، حطيت ال X ب 8، او لو انت عايز ممكن تحطها بنيجاتيف 1. يعني لو عملنا A and then negative 1 minus 3 all to the power of 2 equals 10 هيديني نفس الحوار، لازم يديني نفس الانسر. فيطلع لي هنا نيجاتيف 1 minus 4 يعني في 16A. لا تصدق
مستر ما متهيألي انا الانسر بتاعتي كانت بي.
هيطلع لك 3، هيطلع لك في دي مش تطلع. لا اوكي دي مش تطلع.
ايوه الانسر بتاعتي كانت بي 5 over 8. ده ليه لما حطيت عليها اكس
امم
ان انا لما حطيت ثانية
صح. يعني انا لو حطيت الاكس بنيجاتيف 1 يبقى احنا ممكن نكون عملنا حاجه غلط على فكره.
ايوه انا حطيتها على الكالكليتر طلعت بي. والنمبر 1 ثانية نمبر 1 ده حطيتها على الكالكليتر مع
طب ما انا عندي فكره لطيفه، احنا ممكن نعمل حاجه تانية. let me try. ممكن نعمل هم كام 10.
نمبر 1 بنيجاتيف 1 مش بتطلع.
ممكن نعمل
أو
x
نمبر
plus
8
1 x minus 8 equals 10. that wouldn't be beneficial خالص. لا خلاص never mind. معلش كنت بتقول ايه يا عمر؟ انا اسف اخر حته.
بقول نمبر 8 انسر 8 حط 8 بتديك 10 بس لما تحط نيجاتيف 1 مش بتدي 10.
فما تنفعش.
لما تحط نيجاتيف 1 انا بعملها
ايوه اقصد كده تبقى ايه؟ ما تنفعش تبقى ايه is incorrect لو it worked for one point and the other one did not.
انا مش عارف بقى بتشتغل الاثنين ولا لا.
it needs to work for both. it needs to work for both. بس هي فعلا we can do اللي جد بيتكلم عليه actually. we can find the y-intercept. يعني we know that for a fact that the y-intercept will be this number to the power of 2 and then multiplied by this. But then we don't know the value of the y-intercept in the actual equation يا جد. So how is this useful?
بس 2 حطيت فيها 8 وما ادتنيش 10.
8 ما ادتكش 10. ايوه يبقى didn't work برضه. يبقى المفروض احنا نجرب دول. ما هو مثلا 8 minus، هو مفيش حاجه ثانيه تديني 10 ساعات.
انا جربت كله.
يبقى we did something wrong. Negative 1 on the x, 10 on the y. We did something wrong. We did something wrong. Yes. 8 and 10. لا
ممكن محتاجين نعمل distributed function.
if we expand them it will be harder مش easier خالص.
لا قصدي نكسباند وبعدين نستعمل الاكس انترسبتس عشان نطلع الايكويشن.
ايوه ما انا فاهم. ما هو ده will be hard مش easy. يعني لا it won't get me to an answer انا عايزها خالص. يعني انت مستني. قلت له معلش I'll try something else. Just to confirm there's no problems with the question itself. I will try it again. Make sure we're clear of every step من الأول and so on. We just said that this is 8 and negative 1, so this is 9, and this must be 9 as well. So, and this is let's say x, and this is let's say x. So 2x plus 18 which is 9 and 9, should be equals to the parameter of the 38, which means that 2x is equals to 20, which means that x is equals to 10. So this is 10. So this point must be 8 and 10 فعلا. And this one must be negative 1 and 10. There are no mistakes there. Now, no mistakes there. Even if you do it with factors,
مستر احنا لو عملنا approximation y قلنا إن هي 5 مثلا لو intercept بعدين شفنا أي رقم أقرب
ما هو ده ينفع لو ده assumption شوية. يعني أنا فكر، ما احنا هو ده اللي جاد كان بيقوله من شوية.
احنا لو عملنا كده يبقى هنعمل 9 times protection شوف هيبقى رب الفرس يبقى أكيد بي. هو إيه الإجابة الصح؟
لا مش فاكر. لا maybe transformation rules يا جاد can work، بس هنا الرقم اللي outside of the bracket is mainly what we call vertical dilation. So because it's in all of the choices it's less than 1, so this means that they're all mainly vertical compression. Eight is supposed to be at with 8 and 64 as but that still doesn't make sense. The points must yeah, the points should be the only way we can decide which one of those is the correct one. Yeah. There are no other options, to be honest. Unless the idea of it being 9, so 9 is the distance here, still that wouldn't change anything. لا. Again you tried يا عمر معلش you tried the negative 1 هنا it worked صح؟ It came out as 10.
لا negative 1 للبي.
Negative 1 minus 3 which is negative 4 to the power of 2 which is 10. Yes صح. Negative 1 هنا works. Okay.
وفوق 8 works بعدين ال opposite numbers مش مشتغل.
So 8 minus 3 is mainly 5. 5 to the power of 2 is 25. 25 over 5 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. فعلا negative 1, negative 4 at power 2, 16. 16 divided by 8 is 2. 2 times 5 is 10.
طب أنا سؤالي إحنا لو عملنا distribute ل 2 over 5 على الإيكويشن كلها بعدين استعملنا ما إحنا ما عندناش
مش تفرق.
مفيش x intercepts.
لا there's nothing to be done here. It's very weird. حتى ال 7 over 8 الباقيين مش هيشتغلوا no matter what يعني. unless مثلا negative 4 16 16 over 4 تطلع ب 12 14. لا خلاص never mind. Probably there is a mistake here. This isn't, to be honest, this is from a book, not one of the tests. Maybe there's a mistake here or something, but so far, to be honest, doesn't make any sense. Yeah, doesn't make sense بصراحة.
هو ايه اصلا المشكله يا مستر؟
إن البوينتس اللي إحنا طلعناهم اللي هم 8 و 10 والبوينت التانية اللي هي نيجاتيف 1 و 10 المفروض الاتنين ينفعوا على ايكويجن واحدة. يعني المفروض وانا سبستيتيوت في الايكويجن الصح التو بوينتس ينفعوا. اوكي، فانا المشكله ان الايكويجن الاولانيه دي بيورك عليها البوينت دي بس دي doesn't work، والايكويجن الثانيه دي اللي doesn't work ودي اللي بتورك، بس مفيش اوبشن في الاثنين بيورك مع بعض. فاهم حاجه؟
مستر احنا لو عملنا اسمه ايه ده؟
They're not the y-intercepts يا لوجين. The y-intercept here is just 1 which is 3 and 0. They're not the y-intercepts. sorry يا هيثم، sorry. اتفضل يا عمر، انا اسف.
بقول لو عملنا approximate ال y-intercept هتطلع يعني مثلا 5 و B هتبقى 5.6 والنمبر و A هتبقى 2.
ايوه لو بالمنظر يعني، هي بس انا I don't recommend موضوع الاوبشنز بتاع الابروكسيميشن ده او بالمنظر او كده. يعني I don't recommend ان احنا نبص على الشكل. Lujine, you're saying x and y. I mean the x intercepts not the y. طيب the x yes يا حبيبتي the x intercept is only one. The x intercept is here. This is the x axis and this is the parabola, so it intersects the x axis only once. These points are not the x intercepts. These are just points on the parabola. Actually, no, wait. The y-intercept must be 5. This is stupid. It must be 5 because if this is 10, لا برضه this is stupid. It can't be half of it. I'm sorry. I was assuming that this must be half the 10, which would make this then 5. But this is a stupid assumption, to be honest. Because this means when I put x with 0, the y should be equals to 5. The only case where I put x with 0 and y would be equals to 5 is which one? This one? Negative 399 over 9 times 5 is 45. 45 over 8 is 5 point something still. B is the closest, yes. ايه ده؟ في حد بيتكلم؟ I'm sorry? اه
The graph itself has a fault because the vertex is not a 0.48 and 0.80 and negative 10.
smart. Very smart. True. True. 3 is not in the middle. Because if this is 9, then the midpoint should be actually at 4.5, which is 3.5. It should be as 3.5. صح. Very smart. So it's not in the middle. So then B must be still the correct one.
Not necessarily, Mr. If point A was negative 20, then choice A would also be correct.
Yes, but we didn't change anything in the question itself. Yani you're saying that A would be negative 2 and 0. Why would A change? We'll leave everything as it is, and still the closest to the assumption to the y-intercept that could exist is B. But that means no. This is yes. So from 3 to 8, this is a distance of 5, and from 3 to negative 1, this is a distance of 4. They're not in the middle. But still, they're on the same coordinates. They should have the same coordinates no matter what. Never mind, there's a mistake here to disregard the entire question. This is stupid. Yeah. طيب, this one, what's the value of k? You just need to know that this one multiplied by that one should give me this. So a times 2, yani 2ax squared, should give me equal to 12x squared, which means that 2a is equals to 12, which means then that a is equal 6. So this is 6x. Now also know that this number اللي في الآخر along with this one, when I multiply them, they should give me this value here. So negative 5 times b should give me the negative 10, which means that b must be equals to positive 2. So now I have the value of this a and the b. So if I need to get the k, I'll just rewrite the brackets. 6x plus 2, that's the first bracket. And the second bracket is 2x minus 5. And I'll start distributing. And I'll get 4x minus 30x, which then will give me negative 26x minus 10. So the b is negative 26, which is a. Would you like me to repeat this one? Maybe would you like me to repeat any of those? Right. Now this is similar, as I said, to the ones we've solved earlier. The most important thing here to understand is what every letter represents. So I know that V0, for example, this V0 is the initial speed of the object. It's the initial speed. We know that H0, which is this one, is the initial height from which the object was thrown. And then h is the height of the object above the ground. It's the height right now after t seconds. While g is a constant number that's equal to 9.8. So what's the actual equation? If So what is the equation if you're told that the object was thrown upwards from 40 feet above the ground? The object was thrown from 40 feet. So this means that the initial height is the ones that's equal to 40. So this h0 should be equals to 40. So it's either B or D. A is incorrect and C is incorrect. Now let's check the one after that. It says that initial speed was 35. And I know that the initial speed is mainly V0. So I just put instead of the V0 35, which then would give me this and this, both are correct. Finally, I'll just put the value of g, which is 9.8, and when I do negative half multiplied by 9.8, that should give me negative 4.9. So D must be the correct answer, but not B. Are we clear? No, this is clear, unlike question 3, okay. Awesome. Now, this one, how many seconds will it take the object to reach its maximum height? And we discussed that the only thing, and actually he gave you a hint here that we need this negative b over 2a. So how many seconds they need the t, but they don't want the maximum height itself. So this means that he wants the x coordinate of the vertex, not the y. So since we've already got the equation right there, negative 4.9 t squared plus 35t plus 40, we just do negative b over 2 times the a, which is negative 4.9. Put this on a calculator, times 10 times 10, I don't know. Which one was divided by 7? 13, 25. I think it's 15 over 7, is that correct?
25 over 7.
25 over 7, okay. So 25/7 would be the correct one in this case. Just by a calculator خلاص. Any problems here? What is the maximum height itself? So here's the difference. اللي فاتت they were asking for the time when it was at its maximum height. Now I want the actual maximum height, which means I want the y of the vertex. And since I already know that the x of the vertex is 25/7, I will just have to substitute it into the equation itself. So negative 4.9 times this plus 35 times this, and then plus 40 on a calculator, and the answer came out as, what is it? If one of you did it this way.
Around 102.5.
So it's 103 in this case. Finally, how long will it take for the object to hit the ground? We said that for the object to hit the ground, this means that the whole equation must be equals to 0. So you just need to go to the calculator and put this function right there on mode 5.3. And that should give you T1 and T2. One of them will be negative and the other one is positive. We'll take only the positive one because it doesn't make sense to have time in the negative, or negative however many seconds. So I'm just calculating it now. One of them is 8.1. One of them is 8.1, the other one is negative 1.0, so I'll definitely use the one that has the 8. Because it says here to the nearest second. This one, the equation above describes the height of an object dropped from a height of h0. So we know that this represents the height it was dropped from. If a hiker dropped the water bottle from a cliff of 150 feet, so this is 150 feet, how long will it take to hit the ground? So this means that the whole thing must be equals to 0. For the height to be equals to 0 and it hits the ground. I'll move the 150 to the other side with a negative sign. Then this means that now I have negative 150 divided by negative 16, which is 75/8, then square root this answer, and that came out as 3.06. So when I say round to the nearest second, the 3 seconds would be the correct answer, and that's it. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if there's something you don't get so far.